Is modern medicine really an improvement? Is it really modern? We're going to talk about that a little bit today. Hello everyone, SemiRetiredBob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. Happy Monday, everybody. Well, you guys are going to see this on Tuesday, but it's Monday while I'm out here walking. It's not quite 50 degrees, but it is much warmer than it has been the last couple of days. And I want to get out here and get some walking in. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. If you're wondering what in the world is going on here, well, basically you're watching me walk. The interesting thing about that is 21 months ago, I couldn't do this. I could barely stand for a couple minutes without severe pain due to my spinal stenosis. And now, I'm out here walking every day. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back. I'm glad you're here as well. It means an awful lot to me that you choose to spend just a few moments of your day with me. So why don't you all help me out just a little bit? Help me get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. I'm 60 years old. I'm doing things I couldn't do when I was 40, like walking every day. So help me get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. How about giving me a thumbs up? Drop down in the comments and say, "Hi, Bob." If you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing. All those things are absolutely free, and it helps me get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. But let's jump on into this. Modern medicine. We've had so many advances in the last 40, 50 years. It's pretty amazing. But I think that we've lost our way a little bit too. Because as some of you may know, my father passed away when he was 48 years old from his third heart attack. And now knowing what I know now, because the surgeries for heart disease have gotten so much better, I'm alive today because I had a triple bypass surgery a little over 6 years ago. So that type of medicine has gotten better. The actual mechanical procedures have gotten better. But what about our treatments for things that don't require surgeries? Are we truly using modern medicine to try and cure things, to fix problems, or are we just masking symptoms? I think it's the latter. Oh, let's see here. We're up the top of that hill. The school's down that way, and school's in session. So let's go down this way, see where it comes out at. I have a general idea, but because I do my walks on pretty much the same pattern through the neighborhood every time, sometimes it's nice just to take a street and remind myself where it goes, or be surprised where it goes. But as I talked about, it's been more than a year ago now. If you watch Dr. Eric Westman, he talks about all of the branches of a tree. You know, type 2 diabetes, we have some pills and some injections for that. All the different autoimmune conditions, we have some pills and injections for that. And all of these different branches on this tree, whereas rather than going to each individual branch and giving us a drug that masks the symptoms of that branch, why don't we just cut down the tree, the trunk being hyperinsulinemia, constantly elevated insulin levels, which, if we've been paying attention, and I know most of you have, is a bad thing. How have we become so drug dependent when none of these drugs actually fix any problems? They just mask the symptoms. You know, like I talked about, I think it was in Friday's video last week, but the high blood pressure. I was taking three drugs for high blood pressure. Did it fix the problems that were causing it, or did it just artificially lower the blood pressure? What about the type 2 diabetes I had? Were the drugs I was on actually fixing the type 2 diabetes? Or were they just artificially lowering my blood sugar by, if you know how metformin works, and if you haven't seen, Professor K has a couple of videos about this. But what metformin does is it basically artificially lowers your blood glucose level by forcing the glucose out of the bloodstreams into the cells. And the cells had initially locked the doors so that the excess blood glucose wouldn't damage them. So while yes, metformin or other drugs like it do lower your blood sugar, but the whole reason we don't want elevated blood sugar is because elevated blood sugar causes damage to our tissues. So while the drug is artificially lowering our blood glucose levels, is it actually doing anything to reduce the damage that we're doing to ourselves by having type 2 diabetes or elevated blood glucose? I don't think it actually does anything for us. It's just something to think about, guys. Now, am I against all medications? No, I believe as stopgap measures. We'll let that FedEx truck go by because he's a little loud. As a stopgap measure, I believe that certain pharmaceuticals do have their place. But since most of them are just masking the symptoms, we need to figure out what the underlying cause of whatever condition we have that's causing us to take the pharmaceuticals. We need to figure out what that underlying cause is and get rid of that. Fix that. As Dr. Westman says, cut down the tree of hyperinsulinemia by doing some intermittent fasting, Whew. There's a trailer here for sale for $300. It's not enclosed or anything like that, but the tires look like they'd fit. They've got the same, they're basically the same tires I've got on my trailer. And those tires are about $50 each if I could figure out something to do with the rest of it. I'll have to think about that. I'll come back by and look at it a little closer later. But where was I? I don't remember. It's get rid of the hyperinsulinemia by eating less sugar, doing some intermittent fasting, maybe even try some longer term fasts. Because Professor K says that a true fast doesn't start till you get into day 3. So, you guys know how I feel about that. For me personally, I don't do a lot of fasting. I do intermittent fasting because I eat once a day. I usually have about 24 hours in between my meals. Did I have a great topic for today? I don't know. I think we need to think about, especially for those of us that are still taking some prescription medications. As I said, I think those are fine for the short term, as long as we realize that as a type 2 diabetic, we do not have a metformin requirement or insufficiency. If our blood pressure is high, we don't have a lisinopril deficiency. There's something else out there causing it. And we need to try and figure out what that is and deal with whatever it is that's causing or contributing to the reasons that we are taking those prescription medications. And as I was talking about earlier, I think it's a little bit on the sad side that modern medicine has become more about this is the disease you have, these are the symptoms, here's the drug to fix those symptoms. But they just don't seem curious about fixing the underlying causes. Back to my street, my house is that way about 2.5 blocks, but this is where I usually come up the hill when I'm going around the block. So it's such a nice day out. I think I'm going to take some extra walk. I'm going to go down around the block the other way, and we'll see what happens. I am pretty much exhausted my topic for the day. I'll have some more thoughts when I get back to the house. But for now, let's go ahead, flip the camera around, and cue the music. Okay, let's cut the music. Thank you. Well, we're coming up this last little bit of hill to the house. Just a couple of programming notes. Since you guys are going to see this on Tuesday, tomorrow, on Wednesday at 5 o'clock Central, I'll be live with Dave Mack. And then I forgot to write it down, but about 7 o'clock on Thursday, I'll be live on somebody else's show. Go ahead and I'll leave a link for that down in the comments. And then on Sunday, I'll be live with Carnivore's Grandma for about an hour. So don't forget to tune into those. Especially tomorrow night with Dave. If you have questions, don't forget to bring your questions to the live and tuck in behind the trailer here and get out of that direct sun so that maybe you can see me a little better. But what has modern medicine done to us? And I use air quotes on modern medicine because when I was a kid, doctors seemed a lot more inquisitive. And one last piece of advice or suggestion or whatever you want to call it. It's not really advice. It's not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV. But if you go to your doctor and he doesn't ask you about your diet, he doesn't ask you about how you're sleeping, he doesn't ask you about your stress levels, he doesn't really ask you about anything, but he's ready to prescribe a pill for whatever is ailing you, you don't have a doctor, you have a drug pusher. That's just my opinion, but it's something to think about, you know? And I think we've gotten too far out of the habit of actually thinking about our health as opposed to just, I just go to the doctor every 6 months and he tells me what I need to do and that's what I do. And hopefully I live longer. I don't think that's the correct approach. But again, that's just my opinion. But I hope some of what I said today makes sense. That's what I've got for you today, folks. Don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks. I'll see you in the next one.